You're not stuck unless you choose to be. And so your attitude is going to be a big part of what makes or breaks your success.
Welcome to the Empowered Podcast, episode 17. Thank you for tuning in to the Empowered Podcast. I'm your host, Ellery Wells, and this is the podcast that will help you develop yourself, grow the skills and abilities that you need in order to be successful, and help you overcome the challenges that we're all facing on a day-to-day basis in each of our lives. Before we get into today's podcast, I wanted to tell you a short story. When I was in New Media Expo, which you've heard me talk about several times at this point, I was sitting in a session with Pat Flynn and Cliff Ravenscraft. And one of the things that they talked about was being open and being transparent with your audience. And I wanted to do that with you and to take a suggestion directly from the podcast Answer Man himself. I wanted to tell you a short story about one of the greatest vacations that I have ever had the opportunity of having. A few months ago, back in August of 2013, for my 30th birthday, my wife Ashley took us on a trip to Costa Rica, and we were there for, I think, an entire week. And we were up in the jungle, and we had a bungalow, one of those Groupon things, and we got a really great deal. And it was just absolutely incredible. We were at the Chichagua Rainforest Hotel, I think is what it was called, and it's a working farm. So we drove in, and we got there late on, I don't remember exactly what day it was, but we got there late in the night, and we went up this really bumpy road, and it was about a 2.5-hour drive from the airport there. And we were kind of skeptical. The road was closed because the water levels were too high, and we were just kind of really wondering what we had gotten ourselves into. But once the sun came up the next day, we realized just the beautiful place that we were in. We were literally in the middle of the jungle. We could take pictures of toucans from just the front porch of where we were staying. We got to ride horses in the jungle in the rain. I mean, who gets to do those kinds of things? We were riding horseback in the jungle in the rainforest. And it was just an absolutely incredible experience. I would go back in a heartbeat. And if you have any desire to go to Costa Rica, or if you're looking to go on vacation, the Chichagua Rainforest Hotel, I highly recommend it. It was on one of the top 100 or top 1,000 places to see before you die, whatever book that was. And it was just absolutely incredible. If you've had a really cool vacation and you would like to make a suggestion for a place for Ashley and I to go next time, let me know. Send me an email, leave a comment at the bottom of this podcast. It'll be empoweringthe80%.com/EP17 as in Empowered Podcast 17. Just, have a conversation with me. I'd love to share more stories like that with you. And, at this point, we'll go right into the interview. Today, I wanted to share a conversation that I had with Crystal Paine. She is an author, she's a blogger, and she's changing the world for moms everywhere. Her latest book, Say Goodbye to Survival Mode, really hit home for me, and I really wanted to interview her about the book. And without further delay, we'll go right into the episode. Here's Crystal Paine. Thank you for tuning into the Empowered Podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Crystal Paine, who is the creative brain behind MoneySavingMom. She's also a mother of 3, and her latest book, Say Goodbye to Survival Mode, comes out January 21st, 2014. How are you doing, Crystal?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on.
It's a real honor to have you, such a high-profile author and blogger. You are doing or have done the thing that so many people wish that they could be doing. You've created a business of your own, all while having 3 kids. Can you give us a little bit of a background of what that was like when you decided to go for it?
Yes, well, actually, my kids are the reason that I have the business. And it was when my husband was in law school and we were living on a beans and rice budget, and we were really committed to staying out of debt through law school. And I was working kind of some part-time jobs to help us stay afloat. And then I found out that I was pregnant and got really sick in the first few months of my pregnancy and was unable to work. And so at that point, I was highly motivated to figure out something that I could do from home. And so I spent those first few months of my pregnancy in bed on a laptop, just researching everything I possibly could about starting a business, about making money online. And it was really from there that this whole idea of blogging came from. And I tried a lot of things with affiliate marketing, a lot of different things, but it really grew out of that desire I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and was kind of thrown into that. And so when you're really strongly wanting to do something, it gives you a fire in your belly that you work really hard. And it's really exciting when you reap the rewards of that hard work.
Did you have anybody along the way that said, yeah, once you have the kids, just go back to work? Did you ever have any pushback to doing your own thing, the stay-at-home mom, building the online business?
I haven't had a lot of pushback on that, just because it people could see that what I was doing were things that I was very passionate about. They didn't always understand what I was doing, especially when I started blogging, because I started in 2005, and that was really when blogging wasn't well known. And so I remember a lot of people, my family members and friends, being like, "Blog? You're gonna blog? What on earth is that?" And just kind of not getting it and not understanding and not really feeling like there was any potential there.
Yeah, I still get that sometimes. What is a blog? What is this online stuff? Isn't that just scams? So when you decided to start the Money Saving Mom brand, with just to a complete outsider, it sounds just money saving and coupons, budget cut. Can you give us a little bit of that and then segue into the new book?
Yes. Well, so when I started Money Saving Mom, it grew out of this mommy blog that I had started when my husband was in law school. And on that blog one day, I'd said something about buying all our groceries for $17 that week. And people started coming out of the woodwork saying, "Oh my goodness, how on earth did you do that?"
Yeah.
And it was something that I'd had a lot of experience doing because I'd grown up in a large family, and my mom had me do the grocery shopping and the menu planning for a few years. And so it was something that just came natural to me because I practiced a lot. And so I started realizing that people didn't have those skills, but they wanted them. And so I did a series on that blog on supermarket savings. People kept asking questions. I turned that series into an ebook. People kept asking questions, and I was selling a lot of those and just realizing that there was a need for this information. And so then I did an online course, and I turned that into a downloadable course then. And again, I sold so many of those, and people were saying, "Give us more. We want every week, tell us what we should be buying at the grocery store and help us out." And so Money Saving Mom grew out of that. When I started it, I thought it was just going to be a little offshoot of this mommy blog that I had that was fairly well trafficked. But within a few months, it was like 14 to 16,000 page views a day. And within a year, we were making a
Wow.
full-time income off of it. And so it was really exciting, but at the same time, I was realizing that I was giving these people all these practical ways to save money. They wanted to learn how to cut their grocery bill. They wanted to get out of, debt. But at the same time, so many people were writing in and saying, "We want to do these things, but we're just trying to survive. We're just trying to make it through the day. And we can't even think about clipping coupons or matching coupons with sales or looking for bargains online because we are just stuck trying to live and make it through the day." And so because of that, I realized that there were a lot of these root issues that needed to be dealt with. It's great to teach people these surface things like how to cut your grocery bill, but it's much better to deal with those hard things. And so I started sharing my own journey, which had grown out of as a blogger. I started taking on too much because this thing grew so big so quickly, and I had three children then, and I had three blogs, and I was trying to do so much all on my own. And I just hit rock bottom after months and months and months of not taking care of myself, not getting enough sleep, and pushing too hard. And it was a long process, and it just really kind of felt like the rug was just pulled out from under me, and I couldn't keep going. And one day I came to my husband and I said, I can't keep doing this. I'm really excited about all this stuff that's going on, but I am exhausted. And he looked at me and he said, you're bringing this on yourself. And those words really struck me to the core, because I realized that he was right. I didn't have to be doing all of these different things. I didn't have to have three blogs. I didn't have to be saying yes to all these great opportunities. I needed to focus on what were my priorities in life, and what was I best at, and what could I only myself do. And so I really streamlined my life, cut out a ton, scaled back to one blog, brought on help, delegated a lot of stuff. And it was months of just pulling out of that pit of survival mode, but getting to this place where I was feeling very passionate and purposeful in my life. And so started sharing that story on my blog, just challenging people to live with, intention, and make sure that they had their priorities in order and not take on so much. And it was resonating with people in such powerful ways and just really impacting lives. And so my book, Say Goodbye to Survival Mode, is that story of that journey, of my own personal journey, and the practical steps that I took to get to a place where I'm not just surviving, I'm not just stuck, but I'm thriving. And it's a wonderful place to be, where you know that you're energetic, and you wake up and your feet hit the floor and you're so excited about the day, but yet you have margin in your life, and you have breathing room, and you're not living in that place of exhaustion.
Would you say, as you're pursuing this journey and wanting to say goodbye to survival mode, would you say that you were running away from survival mode, or did you have a goal that you were focusing on?
When I was trying to get out of survival mode?
Yeah, and your goal for anyone who reads this book, do you think it's better to have a target to focus on, or maybe a motivating fire to keep you going, pushing you from behind?
Yes, well, one of the things, the first chapter of my book is all about saying no, and that's been really empowering for people when I give them permission to say no, because we feel like if I don't say yes to everything, I've failed, or I'm going to miss out on some amazing opportunity. But giving yourself that permission to say no, that for me was a crucial step in really recovering from that place of exhaustion and burnout. But then after you do that, then I really challenge people to figure out what you're about, what you're living for. Because if you don't know what you're living for, what's the purpose of living? You're just going to wake up every day and you're just going to be stuck in that hamster wheel going around and around and around. You need to have, that is what drives your passion and purpose, when you have something that you're shooting for. And so I really encourage people, figure out what your priorities are. In my book, I talk about creating a best stuff list. And this has been so empowering for me, because writing down and figuring out these are the 6 things, that these are the best things in my life that I'm going to wrap my life around, and every single opportunity that comes my way, I'm going to hold it up in light of those 6 things and say, does this fall in line with my best stuff list? And if it doesn't, then I'm usually always going to say no. And that's given me a lot of freedom, but it's also given me a lot of purpose, because I know these are the 6 things that I'm wrapping my life around, and everything that I do almost every day, I'm doing things that are getting me closer to where I want to be in a year from now and in 5 years from now. And it gives you so much passion and drive when you realize that you're making traction. You're not just spinning your wheels.
I love that. Your best stuff list. I'm a big believer that you have to learn how to say no to the good things in life so that you can say yes to the great things in life. And it seems like, do you walk readers through the process of finding your best stuff list?
Yes.
Your best in the book?
Yes, and how to figure out what your gifts are, because a lot of people feel like, I don't even know what I'm good at. And so really helping people with that. And we were just having a conference call a few nights ago, and somebody asked me a really good question. It was the whole concept of, well, I'm good at these things, but I don't enjoy them. And so does that mean that these are my gifts, then I need to pursue them? And I said, I really feel like you need to find those things that they energize you and that you feel so passionate about them. It's not necessarily what you're good at, but it's what energizes you. For me, like for instance, when I started public speaking, I hated it. It was awful, as in it made me so nervous, and it was just it was so scary to me to get out from behind the computer screen. But I found that when I stood up on stage and I shared my story, and then afterwards people would come and they would talk to me, I was so energized by that, and it motivated me to then go through speaking training, go out there and make myself speak and get on stage again and again until I got to a place where I actually really enjoy it. And so it's become something that I didn't realize it was a gift that I had. But when I exercised it and found that it energized me, then I realized that yes, this is something that I love to do, even though I didn't realize it was something that was a gift. I would have never thought of that.
And Crystal, your blog has somewhere between 1 to 2 million visitors a month. You're putting out great content, or else that kind of traffic wouldn't be coming to your site. I know from experience. You got 3 kids. I don't know how old they are now, but what would you say to the mom who says, I don't have time, whether it's I don't have time to blog, or I don't have time to pursue my dreams or get the job that I really want? What would you say to that mom? Or that dad, maybe?
You always have time for what is important to you. I love the quote that says, if it's important to you, you'll make time for it. If it's not, you'll make an excuse. And so I really
Ouch.
feel like that if it's something that it's a priority for you, and that's why you need to figure out what your priorities are. But if it's something that it's a priority for you, you can find the time. It doesn't mean that maybe you're going to find an extra 5 hours in your day, but I always encourage people, to practice the 15-minute a day principle. If you feel like there's something you really want to pursue and you want to, maybe it's you want to write a book, or you want to build a website, or you want to learn some new skill, commit 15 minutes a day, every single day. And over time, that adds up to a lot of time. And you might feel like, well, that's not really going to make a difference. Well, if you chip away at it a little bit at a time and a little bit at a time, it's really going to add up, and you're going to see a lot of fruit over time from just investing that little bit of time every day.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the tips that I get so frequently, is taking, even if it's small, taking activity on a consistent, if not every day basis. How do you define survival mode? Because we want to say goodbye to it. What is your definition?
For me and for others that I know, it is where you feel like you're completely exhausted, you're completely spent, you're burnt out, and you just have no motivation for life because you're just tired.
Yeah, I think a lot of people out there know the feeling. We're the economy's kind of bouncing back a little bit, but a lot of companies and a lot of people are feeling the stress of layoffs. You hear all the time, do more with less, and oftentimes that means less people, which means more work on our plate. So I think a lot of people will be able to be able to resonate with that message. Why did you why did you write this book now instead of a couple years from now, or a couple years ago?
Well, I couldn't have written it a couple years ago because I was still pulling out of that pit. But I wrote it now because of a lot of reasons, but really just it felt like it was the right time, and a lot of things as I'd been blogging about it and it was resonating with people and it was impacting their lives. When you get emails from people saying, this has transformed our marriage, what you've shared, this has changed our life, we will never be the same as a result of this. And I just felt I'm very passionate about this message. Just felt like it was the time to share it, and I'm so excited because I feel like it has the power to influence and impact lives in very, very significant ways.
If you're not a mom or a parent, and you're either single or you don't have kids yet, what kind of value could someone like me get from your book, or what do you hope readers like me get out of, say goodbye to survival mode?
Well, I wrote it for specifically picturing the woman that I would write for on my blog, which is typically she's going to be a mom, she's going to have a few kids, and she's going to be somewhere between, 20 and 35 years old. However, when I wrote it, I specifically wanted it not to be narrow and so that the principles couldn't be applied across the board. And so I had a team of people that read it and gave me a lot of feedback, who these people were in all seasons of life. They weren't married, maybe they were older, they didn't have kids, or their kids were grown, stay at home, work outside the home, all across the board. And just to get their feedback, and then even having guys helping me with the editorial process to make sure that there weren't big gaping holes. Now, that said, I'm not a guy, so I can't tell you if it's going to change your life. But my husband read it. He's a little biased, but my husband read it and he said he thought it was amazing, but he's also biased. So,
Well, I'm pretty excited to read it. Just reading the tagline. Oh, where did it go? I had it right in front of me. Uh, it was the tagline, 9 simple strategies to stress less, sleep more, which I think we can all benefit from, and restore your passion for life. That fits me. I don't have any kids right now, and married though, and obviously a guy. So I think the book will reach both genders and a pretty wide audience.
Well,
Do you have one rock star tip from the book that you can give us right now? The book, as of this recording, guys, hasn't released yet, and I think I've got a copy coming my way. But Crystal, do you have a rock star tip that you can give us?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that you have to do is you have to change your attitude about life. And so, for instance, when my husband was in law school and we had this really small grocery budget, that I could have said, okay, that's impossible. There's no way we can live on that. Or I could have the attitude of, you know what? I am going to approach this as with a can-do, committed, creative attitude and make the best of this situation. And so I think that can apply to wherever you are in life. If you're in a place where you're feeling really stuck, I would say you're not stuck unless you choose to be. And so your attitude is going to be a big part of what makes or breaks your success. And so if you can start with saying, you know what, I'm going to do what I can with what I've got, where I am, you're going to be so much more successful than if you sit there and you go, this is impossible, this is overwhelming, and this will never work. So change
Oh,
attitude and you'll change your life.
I love that, doing what you can with what you have. That's, it's a simple phrase, but I don't think I could hear that enough. I'm always looking for something more, an extra book to read, an extra blog post to write that'll just take me and my message to the next level. But doing what you can with what you have, I like that a lot. Crystal, what does the word empower mean to you?
I really feel like when you're empowered, you are excited, you are fulfilled, and you're energized about life. And you feel like you're not waking up every day overwhelmed and feeling like you have this big black cloud over you, but instead you are pumped up and just thrilled about the opportunities that lay ahead of you.
Great answer. And as someone who has said goodbye to survival mode, what does a typical day look like for Crystal Paine?
So I try to get up early in the morning because I found that if I get up early, I seem to have an extra 4 hours in my day, even if I only get up 30 minutes or an hour later.
Funny how that works.
Yes, and so I was just telling somebody the other night, when I get up early and I get up early and I read my Bible and pray and write in my blessing journal just a line of something that I'm grateful for from the day before, just kind of really get my heart in a good place, and then open up my computer and usually do about 2 to 2.5 hours worth of work. And it's funny because when I start when I open up my computer before most people are online, I found that I can get like 4 times as much work done as I can if I try to do that in the middle of the day or in the afternoon. So that's been a really huge part of my productivity. So then I do that and then exercise, take my shower, and then I homeschool my kids. And so in the middle of the day is just our homeschool time, and I try to leave the computer off and my phone off down in my office. And then once we're done with that, then I have a few more hours of work that I do, and then it's our family time in the evening. So we really try to have our day in blocks, so it's not like everything's all kind of scrambled up and chaotic together, but it's, mom's work time, homeschool time, mom's work time, family time.
And Crystal, I just remembered we went over our time. Crystal had told me she had 15 minutes and I completely blew through that. So that's my fault. Crystal, do you have time for one more question, or should we just wrap it up?
Absolutely. You're totally fine.
Okay. What is one tip or piece of advice that you can give people like me who are wanting to say goodbye to survival mode and really just take our lives to the next level?
I really would encourage you to start with saying no, to look at everything that's on your plate, every single opportunity, every single commitment, and say, what is absolutely necessary? And when you really step back and look at it from that perspective, it will change how you view things. And so what is absolutely necessary? Start with that and make sure that you're fitting those big rocks in your day and doing the absolutely necessary things. Because when you clear your plate to just focus on the essentials, that gives you the margin and the breathing room to start realizing, okay, what do I want to be doing with my life? How can I be living with more intention? What goals can I be setting? And it gives you that space to be able to breathe and to think, so that then you can start moving forward and living with intention. But you've got to start with saying no before you can say yes.
Awesome. I love that. And for everyone who wants to pick up Crystal Paine's book, Say Goodbye to Survival Mode, you can go directly to empoweringthe80%.com/survival mode. And there's no dash in there. Crystal, if someone wanted to connect with you and say thanks for taking the time to hang out with Ellery in the Empowered Podcast, where can we send them?
I'd love for you to check out my blog, MoneySavingMom.com. I'm also on Facebook. We have a very active Facebook page. It's facebook.com/MoneySavingMom. And I'm also on Twitter @MoneySavingMom.
Awesome. All those links will be in the show notes. Thank you so much, Crystal.
Thank you.
And to be perfectly honest, I have not read Crystal's book, but it is on my to-do list, and I cannot wait to say goodbye to survival mode. If you're interested in picking up a copy of her book, you can go to empoweringthe80%.com/survival mode. I mentioned the link during the episode, and that will take you directly to where you can buy the book via Kindle or the hardback right there on Amazon.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, would you do me a huge favor? Would you go to iTunes, pull up my podcast, and leave me a rating and review? I'd love a 5-star, but if you want to give me a 3 or a 4, I just want honest feedback from you. If you want the short link, you can also go to empoweringthe80%.com/iTunes, and it'll take you directly to my show. And just let me know what you think. If you're on Stitcher, you can go to the same URL but /Stitcher and give me the thumbs up or however you want to do it. I just want to know if this is the kind of material that you like. As we keep going with the show, I'm going to change the format just a little bit. I really want to focus on people who are overcoming, specific challenges. In some upcoming episodes, I speak with a lady named Elaine who has a traumatic brain injury and what that did to her life. I speak with a guy named Paul who was born with half a heart and what effect and what impact that had on his childhood. And I also talked to a girl named Amy who had an attempted suicide. And you might not be able to relate to those specific tragedies. I keep wanting to say strategy. If you can't relate to those specific tragedies, I haven't had something quite that significant in my life, but they have such a unique view on life when when you come, or when you're faced with something so significant, you come away from those things with a different view of the world. And it's encouraging to me, and hopefully it will be encouraging to you as well. I hope you continue to listen to the Empowered Podcast. If you have any questions, any feedback, feel free to send me an email, ellery@empoweringthe80%.com. Find me on Twitter @empoweredellery. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/empoweringthe80%. Just let me know what you're going through, or what's going great for you. And I want to be able to share those positive experiences with all of the listeners. So if you want to connect with me, I'd love to hear your story and be able to share it. If you don't want me to share it, that's fine too, but I'd still like to hear it. Thanks for listening.